So today we're gonna play around with the items from my Luxe box for the month of December. I'm really only gonna play around with the makeup because that's what we're looking for, okay? We are trying to create looks for Christmas because that's what's coming. Christmas and New Year's and all that good stuff. I'm super excited. I'm gonna start off by applying the Herbivore Cloud Jelly. I did a poll over on Instagram and here on YouTube in the community page. If you're not following me, make sure you subscribe and select all notifications. That way, even when I release an update over on my community page, YouTube will alert you guys. That way you're not missing out on anything and you can participate. You don't miss out on giveaways and all that stuff. And then you can like give me your opinion on polls and stuff. But I chose 2 topics. It was either potlucks and not eating from other people's homes, or the real reason why I don't miss the snow, because I'm like originally from Jersey. On YouTube, the majority said talk about both. And then over on Instagram, same thing. The majority said talk about both. So we're gonna talk about both. And the shorter story happens to be why I don't miss all the snow. My skin looks slightly more luminous, but other than that, there's like nothing super special. Okay, let's dust away the powder from under the eye. I wasn't baking, but you know, I have to set the under eye area really quickly. That way we can actually try the Anastasia trio thing. I'm gonna use my BK Beauty 111 brush. And in the meantime, we're gonna talk about what happened my very last winter season that I had to freaking work at the office, and it sucked balls. Like, I hated it, okay? Not only did I dislike my job at that point, because I did, however, I tapped a bit much. So it goes on really good, like, you can definitely build it, so be really careful because it looks fairly light, but you know, she's gonna do the job. Anyway, this was in 2018. They announced that a blizzard was coming, and of course, everyone's kind of like hoping, like we were literally on our phones at like 3 o'clock in the morning, hoping we would get a text message from our superior saying, hey, I'm closing the office, don't worry about it, like it's not safe. No. And on top of that, he made sure everyone was clear on, you better be on time. We were all at the office on time, he was not. Okay, hold on. What blush do I want to use? Because they sent this, but it's an oil and I'm scared. I think it's still fairly early on where if I mess it up, I can fix it. So I'm going to apply this on the back of my hand and let it process. I don't think this is something that should be applied over foundation. We're gonna prime our lids while this sits and we'll go from there. We opened up at 9 o'clock. Of course, everyone needed to be there before 9 because that was the rule. And so we got there and it was what it was. The blizzard had kind of started, but it wasn't even that serious. It was okay. We were at the penthouse floor. Unfortunately, we weren't able to see what was really going down on the ground. Ooh, it's shifting, it's moving, but it's turning pink. I'm gonna try to keep my hand like this and keep going. He got there around 10 and 15, something like that. He tells me to prepare a sign. We were gonna put a sign on the door letting people know that we were closing, and I gave him a look like, bro, I live about 30 minutes away from here, and that's without traffic and snow, and you're sitting here telling me that I got here. I've been here an hour. I mean, thank you, you're gonna pay me for the day, but like so inconsiderate. Now this day, Juan and Ty were home because even Juan's job shut down, and there was no school because they already knew how bad it was going to get. Yet this man had us leave our homes to get to the office for 1 freaking hour. I am slightly concerned. Oh God, let's just try to, I blended it out. It does give you a little flush and I'm gonna tap it in. I'm gonna suggest if you're ever going to do anything like this, do not apply a 100% full coverage foundation. You wanna be super careful because if we're gonna be realistic, it's definitely gonna move it around. Now I used the Makeup Forever HD and I only did my 2 pumps and I applied it with a sponge. So even though it looks really full coverage, light medium coverage that I have going on. I don't have too much buildup on my skin. I think that's why it's looking decent and it's working. I'm gonna keep doing one of these. It's almost created a blended out version of a cream blush because otherwise it would have broken everything apart that I have on my skin. Is it practical for every day? I don't think so because this can get super messy. Now we have this weird division thing going on right on top of it, and what that's gonna do, it's gonna diffuse that. So it's not a harsh division between my setting powder and this blush oil. It did the trick though, it looks pretty. You just have to kind of like proceed with caution. We are going to dip into the eyeshadow palette, but remember we have to pair it with a red. Yesterday's look was like very voom. I think we're gonna go wearable today. Why not? I'm gonna dip into the shade Book Club. It is a taupey shade and that's gonna go on the crease. So we go ahead and That is way deeper than this. It's still, hold on, let me just kind of brush some of it off. That is way more than I expected. So be very careful. So anyway, so what happens? We're at the office. Everyone's pretty bummed and upset because it's like, yay, we get to go home. The blizzard's getting pretty bad, but at the same time, now that's like this crazy ass power trip where you made us come to the office knowing that you were gonna close it anyway, just because. Like, that's a douchey move, you know? We close off the office and I texted Juan that I'm on my way because he wouldn't answer the phone. He did not even respond to that. Homie was still asleep and I don't blame him. You don't have to wake up and go to work. Why would you be up so damn early? At this point, I had the 2010 Edge. My car was very, very old. That's before I like sold it and ended up getting the car that I have now. So I get to the parking garage. It was a closed out parking garage. So my car was like nice and clean. In order to get onto the parkway in New Jersey, like at least where I was, I had to stop at a red light, wait my turn, right? I'm at the red light and my wipers are like doing this and they're doing the most because it's a crazy ass blizzard and I couldn't see anything. Now, mind you, there's a jail right next to us. Like the jail is located literally right next to the light. Tell me why I'm sitting there minding my business at the red light, waiting for that damn thing to turn green so that I can just go. And I hear ping! And then I just hear scratching. And I was like, what the hell was that? Because I couldn't see anything, right? And then on top of that, I didn't really have gloves on because driving with gloves in the car, once the car was warm, my hands would get sweaty. I have a thing with sweat. Sweat bothers me. When I really take a look and I like actually focused, I realized that my wiper broke off of like the wiper arm situation. Like the whole freaking wiper broke. And the only thing that was going like this was the actual piece of metal scratching against the windshield. So now it's scraping the freaking windshield, right? In that very moment, I was like, oh crap. That's not what I said, but you know, we're gonna keep it a little PG. I went to get out of the car and the light turned green and there were obviously people behind me. So now I have to sit here, get out of the way, park over to the side next to the jail, get out, crawl over all the snow that was already there because it had snowed like days before, and find all the pieces, which took a minute. And then because I didn't have any gloves on, I had to put gloves on and I'm trying to piece it together to put it back on the car, but I've never done that before. So I don't know how to put a windshield wiper back together. Next thing you know, I felt my fingers like crippling, they getting tight, and I was freezing. So I said, screw it. I was not gonna figure that out. And I was not getting ready to YouTube a video on how to put windshield wipers back on the car. Like we were not gonna do that. I get on the parkway. I was like, we can do this. I could have taken the local way home, but when you go locally, people could be crossing the street. You know what I mean? Like, it's safer to be on the highway, at least I thought, right? We're gonna go in with the same brush and I'm gonna dip into Charity Gala, and this is gonna go on the crease as well. I get on the parkway and I felt pretty confident until I realized that there were so many cars just skiing by. I'm not joking, sliding, going like this and sideways and just sliding. At that point, I realized I made a mistake, but I'm so like in already, I can't get out. Believe it or not, the entire time I was praying. I prayed to God, please allow me to get home. Allow me to get home safe to my family. Allow me to just kind of float on by all the way until I find my exit. I'm on the middle lane and there were cars just sliding around me. Once I got close to my exit, it was like my exit was the very next one. I had to get closer to the right to get to the right lane, but I can't see because the right wiper was the one that broke. So I could not see anything. I'm relying on this bit on the left-hand side for me to be able to see. I'm going super slow. I'm trying to figure out how can I see if any cars are coming off of the right-hand side so that I can merge over to the right. And as I'm going forward, there was a pileup of two cars. The cars coming were crashing into those two. I'm seeing this happen. These are things that you kind of see in the news and you're like, oh my God, that's crazy. I witnessed it with my own freaking eyes. And because I was in the center lane, I was able to pass them. All I kept doing was praying and saying, God, please don't let anyone crash into me. Allow me to get home safe. In the moment that I passed them, I said, it's either now or never. Because at that point, that's where my exit was. I don't know, like, I think in that split second, common sense kicked in and I was like, okay, the exit is here. The cars are piled up here. Anyone that comes through is going to crash into them. I legit just kind of like went around them. My car skied around them and I took my exit. And then I eventually got home like 2 minutes after that because I was not far from the parkway. And I thanked God. When I'm telling you, I was sweating, and it wasn't because of the heater. I got home, I sat down on my couch because of what I had witnessed. It was one of those things where it's like you gotta see it to believe it. It was insane. Now I'm gonna dip into Beach Day. It's like a pretty rosy, frosty shade, and that's gonna go all over the lid. So yeah, when that man pissed me off, and I've already given you guys the story of what happened, but when that man pissed me off in October, I said, okay, 3 weeks and I'm done. It's just not worth it anymore. And guys, whenever I see videos on social media of the storms, or even like on the Weather Channel, because I don't watch TV, but Juan and Ty will show me pileups and stuff, it just kind of brings me back to that. Do I miss the snow? Absolutely not. It's pretty. I'll watch it on TV, but I'm good. Like, I am not a snow lover. I never really was. And after the last storm that I experienced, where I was concerned, like genuinely concerned for my well-being, absolutely not. I'm good. I'm okay. I'm okay. And I know a lot of people can relate. Driving in snow is no joke. I'm gonna grab this pencil brush and I'm gonna dip into Power Lunch. These are way more pigmented than you can imagine. I promise you, once you dip into it, you are gonna see what I'm saying. Because this looks kind of like it's a pretty color story, but it seems very neutral, kind of like light and sheer, but not this formula. Mally did their thing, for sure. So I'm just gonna create a little bit of a shadow. If you wanna go with a full-on wing, be my guest, but I'm trying to do something a little more on the soft side. And then when it comes to like eating at people's houses, here, I've seen some stuff, okay? I've seen stuff. The things that I have seen working in that office has taught me that you can't eat off of everyone's house, especially when there's a freaking potluck, okay? And I worked at the office for 17 years. I've seen a lot. We had a lot of staff rotating, so you can just imagine. I'm gonna grab that same little pencil brush with no additional product. I'm gonna go in with whatever's left on the brush, and I'm gonna drag that on the lower portion of the eye. You see, it adds a little something, but it's not too much. So one time they said, hey, we should totally do a potluck. And I'm like, okay, cool, like I'm down. And you guys know I love cooking. I was like, for sure. We came up with the menu. Everyone said what they were gonna bring, and we were cool. So I had a situation where I was looking forward to the food. I made sure I had a really light breakfast because it's potluck day. Now, I typically made desserts. That's what I would always say. Like, I got the desserts because I was just a dessert freak. So they announced it's time to go over to the conference room, bring your dishes, get them all set up in proper order, right? I grabbed my dish. It's properly wrapped. We had disposable gloves available at everyone's disposal. That's the key point. And I go all the way to the end because it's dessert. So you put the desserts all the way to the end. And I'm seeing how certain people are just setting up their food. I had to take a second and go get Cam because she just woke up. I'm gonna go ahead and use these lashes because they're amazing. They're the Next Gen Wispy Blowout in Pompadour by Kiss. So girl, I looked over to the left. You want another cookie? Here, baby. And I see an individual who, honestly, I didn't have reservations on, eating her food. I didn't think anything of it. I don't look into people and automatically judge them. This lady had no gloves on. Big no-no. 2, her hair was loose. No. And then on top of that, she was like mixing what she had made, and she got some on her hand and she's like licking her fingers and then went back in with the same spoon that we're all supposed to be using to serve ourselves. That's a big no-no. And then the edges, some of it got on the edges and she went like this. No. Once I skipped her platter, of course. I did not eat what she made. If she did that in front of us, what did she do behind the scenes with the food and her fingers and her mouth? We're not doing that. So I skipped her plate. And then at that point, I was like, man, I'm really gonna have to reconsider next year if I even wanna not bring lunch and eat what people bring in, because this is kind of scary to me. It kind of shed light on, you gotta be careful with who you trust with the food that you're putting in your mouth. And at that point, I just started to look at things super differently in terms of potlucks. At another point, someone brought in a fruit salad and they used their bare hands to make a decoration of the fruit on top. If you make a pile and you kind of want to look pretty, you grab strawberries, and she used her bare hands, but we have gloves. I can understand if you go wash your hands and you're using a knife and a cutting board because you're cutting. No, she didn't cut anything. She legit just made a little pile of a decoration on top when she could have used gloves. No, she did not wash her hands properly because we didn't even have a bathroom in our suite. So in order to wash your hands properly, you'd have to leave the suite, go to a public bathroom on our floor to wash your hands. But then you have to make it through 3 or 4 different doors to get back in. Girl, I have seen people eat from their plate and whatever they said they didn't touch, they go and put it back in the potluck bowls because they say, well, I didn't touch it. I don't like being wasteful. I'm not going to throw it out. So I might as well put it back. What? More cookies? Here, baby. No, you're supposed to serve yourself what you want to eat. And then if you don't actually eat it all, get foil, get saran wrap. Always bring your own Tupperware and save it for later. Don't put it back in the food that everybody else is supposed to be eating. Don't do that. I'm gonna go ahead and spray my skin with the setting spray super quickly. And then I'm gonna apply my highlighter. I'm gonna use this center one here from the palette. We're gonna tap out because it takes a lot. And yeah, my skin is kind of wet, but I oversprayed myself because I really like the smell of that spray. I'm just gonna tap some. And then once my skin is like semi-dry, then we'll go ahead and actually like diffuse this and blend this in. But I think what was kind of like my worst was there's this one person who used to love baking. Sweetest person that could be. She was an older person and lived by herself, didn't have any kids ever. Everyone always wanted to be nice to her because she was actually pretty nice. And she would always tell us about her cats. She had like 3 or 4 cats. Since she lived by herself, her cats would be on the table while she ate her dinner. Which for me, it's like whatever. That's not like a rule breaker, right? I know I don't have any pets. Cats are not like my vibe, although they're cute from afar. And dogs are my vibe, but I'm allergic. So it kind of is what it is, right? I know people who have cats. I know people who have dogs. They allow them to be everywhere or don't allow them to have access to any furniture because there are rules. So however you deal with your household, you deal with your household. I'm gonna apply a little bit of a red lip liner so that we can pop this lippy on. This person would constantly bring desserts because she loved baking to the office, which was nice. Like she didn't have to do that. She would always bring different baskets or it would be covered with foil, or she would always make sure that it arrived and it looked pretty and it was properly covered. The only problem is the baskets always had cat hair all over them. The aluminum foil had cat hair all over them. And you're thinking, okay, well, at least she covered the food. Yes. However, the frosting had cat hair on it too. If I could take a picture and show it to you, I would. I legit was going to eat one time. And the moment that I went like this and I saw fuzzies all over the cupcakes, I just couldn't. And so when she asked me why I wasn't having any dessert, I told her it wasn't part of my diet because at that point I already had the weight loss surgery. So I kind of got away with saying that because I didn't want her feelings. She was so freaking nice. Yeah, you can't eat at everyone's house. You have to be really careful sometimes. Now I feel bad because I could see some of you guys now, like anytime you guys have like a holiday party at work and stuff like that with people that like you don't really know how they are at home, you're going to be looking at their hands. You're going to be looking at their plates, their platters. I know sometimes people are just picky in general when it comes to like food, the kitchen, cooking, people's household. I'm not necessarily like that. Like I'm all about it. But when I see one thing that triggers me, I'm like, yeah, I don't know. I'm happy with the look. I think it turned out really, really well. What do you guys think? I think this is a more realistic and wearable look for many. You still have the rose gold. You have a little pop of like color on the center. That crease is nice and warm, but still very wearable. And the lashes just kind of like added the extra kind of like glam to the look, keeping it classy and still simple. The red lipstick, I'm surprised. It hasn't gotten on my teeth. It's really comfortable, super pretty. It's not very dry either, and it dried up very fast. The only thing is we tested this out already and it does move around. So be very, very careful in application. Make sure you apply like a lip liner so you can kind of like lock it at least around the perimeter of your lips. I shared a few horror stories with you guys. I'm really curious. Do you guys have any like potluck or eating other people's food horror stories? Please share them down below. I love hearing stories like that because it makes me feel like I'm not the only weirdo that notices these things. I really hope you guys have enjoyed today's video. Don't forget to hit the like button for me. It really, really helps me out. And I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye, guys.